First of all, I want to thank you all for coming this morning. And Donnie, I especially want to thank you for stepping in week before last and then staying on schedule last week. Uh, I really appreciate how you how you uh, work with me. I appreciate it. I do not take it lightly.
I got you, man. I got you. Always.
Yeah. Uh, I was overjoyed when I heard about Laverne. Uh, I knew something was going on, but I didn't have the particulars, and I didn't need the particulars. But we need some good news. I yesterday I was getting things together for today, and I was really happy. I've got some new help, and they're and so far things are working out, and I'm prayerful that things will continue, that some consistency will not only introduce itself, but that it'll take a chair and sit down. But I got a call yesterday from a good dear friend, and her father had passed. And I tell you, uh, well, she wasn't she wasn't very close with her father, and as most of us in life, you know, when she got here, her parents were both young, probably under 20, and he wanted to marry her mother, but her mother, for whatever reason, didn't want to marry him. And he was in her life for about the first 5 years. And I kid her a lot because she's like a lot of the ladies here. She's very vocal. She has no problem telling you what's on her mind, whether you want to hear it or not, you know. But a lot of years passed, but probably about 7 or 8 years ago, uh, he came to see her. And I was there that day. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. But come to find out, he and my father worked together at A.H. Robbins. I was like, wow, small world. Make a long story short, their relationship began to grow. And we worked together for 15, 16 years at the same insurance company. And I can say that I saw her relationship with her father grow, and the complaints or observations that she had about men, it began to change for the better. You know, the better they began to understand each other. And you know, it's funny. We have sometimes we have a lot of questions sometimes about our parents, and we forget sometimes that just like us, people do things in their youth. You know, they were young just like we were once young. Many of us, some of us still are young, but I'm looking around here and, you know, all of us have been around a while. I'll just put it that way. And she was, obviously, she was, of course, sad, but she was really, she couldn't understand why she was so broken up. I mean, you know, she's older than I am. Not by much, but enough. And she said, what puzzles me is why am I so, I mean, everything was fine. I mean, we worked things out. You know, I got some answers, you know. And so she was like, I'm puzzled because when she called, I could tell something. She didn't say why she called, but the way she was talking, I was like, is something wrong? And that's when she conveyed to me that her father had died like 3:45 that morning. Actually, I guess it would be Friday morning. And of course, she had just got the news. And all of these thoughts start flooding through her because she was like, you know, I know he loved me. I know he thought about me, and you know, and I was just glad. She said, but he's gone. I said, well, yeah. And she said, but I don't understand. Why am I like this? And I said, I don't understand it either. But, you know, there was a physical connection. He's how you got here. So you got to feel something. If you felt nothing, I really would have some. Yeah, because I used to kid her sometimes. I said, you hard as some of the sisters at my dad's church. I said, you should be going here. I said, you would fit right in. And I said, you would really love it when you overheard some of the things they said about me. You know. And so, and like I said, we've been friends for over 20-some years now. But we worked together, and that was something. But you know, I'm sharing that because, you know, sometimes you want to say, no more, please. Can we get 30 days where everybody just gets to hang around? You know, and stuff's still happening. You know, but saints, that's life. See, for a long time, we never thought about passing. You know, and in our youth, we definitely didn't think about that. You know, we have people that are still affiliated with us, but because they're handling family obligations, they're not here. But when I talked to them, I said, I know it's tough, but I would have loved the opportunity in both situations, because we had planned some things, but we all got a horrible surprise, But she got better. But I just shared with her. I said, truly, you felt something for him, for you to be like you are. And I told her that if she didn't want to go to the services by herself, that I said, if it's during the day, I'll go with you. And so that's about all I could do, because I'm, like I said, I try to be real careful about, because sometimes when you hear bad news, it's like, is there anything I can do? And I'm like, well, are you in the position to do anything? See, we need to get some of the polite talk out of the way, because sometimes you may obligate yourself to something you cannot bring about. And I'm not saying don't want to help people, of course. But, think before you speak. Don't just, well, this is what I'm supposed to say. No. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Because sometimes people already know. But I was really glad about Vern, and there some things happened to a couple of us, and I was able to check on some people, and we're getting there. But I tell you, saints, keep your hard hats on. My goodness. But today I want to go over a little bit about, Donnie had already touched on it at Shavout, but I want us to look at this thing, because yes, what he characterized, right on point. But if you read further, you'll see there's a little more to it than the parts that we like to magnify. And I submit to you that just like what we're getting ready to get into about Shavuot, the same thing is about the relationship that we have with the Most High. The same thing. And I'll say this, there's more to our relationships with each other than we realize. And it's all tied into what we're going to kind of try to touch on. Deuteronomy 16, 9 and 11. Now, most of us, if you say, well, hey, when did Shavuot or Pentecost start? Most people, the book of Acts. And that's not, and in fact, I remember this church I used to go to, when we were splitting time with the Baptist church, but they used to always say, well, part of the speech was, according to Acts 2:4. I said, okay, all right. But It really, it was before that. Like I said, Deuteronomy 16, 9, and 11. But it's all good. That's first of all. It's all good. It's all good. All right. It says, you ought to count 7 weeks. You ought to begin counting 7 weeks from the time you first put your sickle to the standing grain. You ought to observe the festival of Shavuot, weeks, for Yah, your God, with a voluntary offering. And I remember some years ago, Bonita coming to me and telling me something. We got to have, I think she called it first fruits offering. And I was like, well, yeah, okay. That's something you might want to think about next year. But if you're led, you bring something this week coming up. But I'm not trying to take an offering. A voluntary offering which you are to give in accordance with the degree to which Yah, your God, has prospered you. You are to rejoice in the presence of Yah, your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves, the Leviim living in your towns, and the foreigners, orphans, and widows living among you, in the place where Yah, your God, will choose to have his name live. Now, most of the time we stop right there, but there's one more verse. And I think that's key. It says, remember that you were a slave in Egypt, then you will keep and obey, and they have these laws. But we like to call them teachings and instructions. Now, most of us know, and it's interesting when you're reading a lot of Hebraic literature and even some Jewish literature and things of that nature, because, when they were talking about, before they were going to go meet the Most High at Mount Sinai, he gave them some instructions. And he told, in other words, he was like, look, if y'all going to meet me on the morrow, listen, you tell them, I don't want no hanky-panky. I don't care if you are married. And the reason why he said that is because he wanted everybody's mind on him. Not, oh, how wonderful, you blessed me with this wonderful woman. And then oh, my husband is I have gotten a man of the Lord. Remember that? Somebody said that. And again, I'm not knocking marriage, but this was a very serious thing. And see, some sects, CTS, they stay up all night because most of a lot of them overslept. That's why they said, well, hey, we ain't going to do that. We're going to stay up all night studying Torah. But, getting back to the story. So it appears the Most High wanted everybody to realize, listen, I got some stuff I want to share with you because we getting ready to kind of get joined at the hip. And he had certain standards that he appears to operate by. And even as you read in other passages, he even warned, he said, Moses, tell the people, don't rush in. In fact, anybody ever see that movie Crash? Well, Terrence Howard, and I know Bernita probably get mad at me because she says, the people aren't where you at, which I understand, but the movie Crash, in the movie, there was a scene where Terrence Howard, he and his wife, I don't know who the lady was, but they were coming home from a outing or something. And the police stopped them, and things got out of hand, and one of the cops took indecent liberties while he was searching the man's wife supposedly for, a weapon or something. Long story short, of course, she got upset with her husband because she felt he didn't do enough. But, I mean, two policemen, they got guns. He got no guns. How much more could he do? But that's a sermon for another day. Well, later on, he's coming from a studio or something, and guys tried to carjack him. That guy Ludacris, he tried to carjack him, and I'm going somewhere with this. The police, they get in a chase. The police stop. He pulls up in a cul-de-sac, and the other cops get out, and they draw their guns on him. And, with what's been happening in the United States, most of you know how things go. They don't end well. But the cop that was partner of the cop that did the indecent thing, he showed up on the scene. And he began to diffuse the situation. But what I remembered when I was reading, when the Most High told Moses, tell the people, don't rush up on me because they may die. Some of them may die. And he said, even the priests. Remember now, he said, even the priests. And so that was the version of preachers. Some of these same cats, you going to hell. And you know what? That's not our decision. That's not our decision. But I'm staying on point. I just kind of get carried away. But make a long story short, the cop tries the cop that was not happy with what his partner did. He came up on Terrence Howard's character, and he said, do you see what's going on here? He said, with the way you're acting, they would be perfectly justified to blow your head off. And so Terrence says to him, he said a few choice things to the other guys, because he was like, I'm not doing this, but because the guy asked me, he said, well, just put your hands on your head. And of course, Terrence, remember, you all violated my wife in front of me. And so Terrence said, I'm not putting my hands on my head, and I'm not sitting down. When he got out the car, see, he was prepared to die. But see, a man shouldn't be put in a situation like that. You coming home from work, and in one man's mind, this is a routine traffic stop. Well, how does a routine traffic stop end up with somebody dead or shot? I'm still talking about Shavuot, y'all. But the cop was trying to reason with him because he realized they had done him wrong. And so he walks up on the dude, and Terrence said, hey, man, don't walk up on me. Because he said, I know this man. He tells the other cops that's holding the gun. He said, lower your guns. I know this man. He don't have a gun. Check his records. He's clean, But Terrence had took the gun from Ludacris and had it in the back. And I was like, oh, my goodness. So then the guy said, well, then the cop says to Terrence's character, will you at least keep your hands where they can see them? And Terrence said, I can do that. See, sometimes, folks, you get in a situation in life, particularly for brothers, sometimes you feel like the only choice and the only stand you got to make is you got to give your life up. And I'm saying, no, don't make that move. Stay here. Don't make the move. Don't allow yourself to be put in a situation where you say, well, the only way I'm out of this is death. Don't let your frustration level get you to the point where you feel like this is the only way out. Either I'm going to take them out or they're going to take me out. Usually it's more of them than you. But when I read in the scriptures where the Most High told Moses, tell the people, don't rush up on me. Don't rush to see me. And in Christianity, we talk so much stuff. We say, come boldly before the throne of grace. I'm like, okay, but y'all, I think sometimes we forget who we're talking about. And particularly here in the United States, I have said right here in this congregation, America does not dictate to the Most High. I don't care how many mega ministries we got. That means nothing. He's calling the shots. He's put it all together. He's the one that's got something. We're the ones that have nothing other than what he gave us, which is our lives. That's all we can come to him with. But that's not all we come to him with. He's asking us, hey, you want to be my business partner? Well, let me think about it. Well, if I do this, what are you going to do for me? Now, Most High, you know, I've been waiting for a mate I ain't been waiting on a mate, but you know how y'all be. I ain't waiting on a mate for and I'm tired of waiting. He might say, well, you tired of waiting? But come on up here. Oh, no. See, everybody want to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. But that struck with me when I said, well, wait a minute. He's telling the people because, again, we get excited and we do it. It was a wonderful thing. We were kind of getting joined at the hip, so to speak. But I'm like, wait a minute, hold it. In reading this, and all the years we've been studying this, how many of us read the passage where he told Moses to tell the people, hey, don't run up on me? See, and many of us have been in churches, and I know what was meant when they said, come just like you are. Yeah, to a point, but I know in my own life, I'm like sometimes, man, when it's just me, the way it affects me, the closer it appears to me that I'm getting to him, the more I can smell myself. And it causes me to kind of hesitate. Because I'm like, Father, you got a pin in your nose? Because I want to come closer. Now, that's when I've got my rose-colored glasses off. See, that's when it's me and him. Because when you're among other believers, I mean, come on now. We're all the righteousness of the Most High. And we are if he says it, not because we say it. You ought to rejoice in the presence of Yah, your God. You, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves. And yes, I still have an issue with that terminology there, but that's all right, it's in there. The Leviim living in your towns, and the foreigners, orphans, widows living among you. Don't sound like he left anybody out. Don't sound like he left anybody out. In the place where Yah, your God, will choose to have his name live. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt. That was not a suggestion. That was not a suggestion. Remember what I brought you out of. Not just, he told him, Moses, tell him now, when it's time to come before me, don't bum rush me. You know, he didn't say bum rush, but you know, that's me talking. But he's saying, hey, tell him, hey, don't come running up in here just any old kind of way. Because he knows who he is. The question is, do we know who he is? I mean, some of us, you go in certain people's houses, you don't go in there any kind of way. And you're certainly not going to go in their front, their living room and put your feet up on their table. Move their big Bible out the way that got all that dust on it. You know, and I'm not throwing rocks at Christianity, but we've kind of been taught that he's more our friend. He can be like a friend if that's what's needed, but he is who he is. And he's the one that made us. He's the one that made all you see and don't see. He's the one that he knows the day, the moment that each one of us going to expire. So when you approach somebody with that kind of leverage, do you really want to come in there any kind? All right, Father. Where's mine? I want mine, like the prodigal son. Where's mine? I want mine now. Until we get to think, wait a minute, hold it. To get some of this, I got to get out of here. Now I want to hang around a little bit longer, if it's all right. But he told him, he said, tell the people, Moses, don't rush up on me. You ever had somebody so excited to see you, and you're happy to see them, but then, man, they come up and they hug you, and they about to squeeze the life out of you, like, oh, my gosh, I didn't miss you that much. I mean, we, particularly us, because we are very emotional people. And I've said to you before, I'm not saying, I am saying don't let your emotions rule you. You rule them. That means you regulate. You regulate. I mean, sometimes we even know. Sometimes a thank you is sufficient. Sometimes I not only appreciate what you've done, but I mean it right now. I can never repay you, but I want to try. See, but you let them know up front. And then he says, remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Then you will keep and obey, and they have these laws. But don't skip over that part, because a lot of us, I mean, especially, you know, you've been waiting on that job or whatever, or business or whatever, and it takes off. Oh, man, now it's time for me to flex. No, it's not time for you to flex. The time, what you need to do is, wait a minute, I remember how things were before. Because if you remember that, that will help you govern your success. But when you get super emotional and, oh my God, he's answered my prayers and the sky's the limit. Give me 3 of those. Give me 4 of those. You know. The business might go under next year. You know, Amazon, Walmart, Target. They were making money hand over fist. Tesla, doing well. How they doing now? How they doing now? Right, what does all this have to do with Shavuot? I told you there's more to this than what we've been thinking about. And right there, remember you were slaves in Egypt. Then you can keep my teachings and instructions. But when you forget the tough times, we go overboard. You know, with children. And I tell you, the older I get, the more, boy, I sure regret not having any. But I felt that way. I can honestly tell you, I felt that way when I was in my 30s. I was really down because well, you know, people change their minds, but we had agreed we were going to have kids, you know. And we both got caught up in our careers, you know. And what did that get me? Slinging them up. No, but I enjoyed my insurance career, I did. But I'm just saying, see, as you approach different stages in life, you begin to see the importance. I'm like, oh my goodness. But let me say this too now. I ain't thinking about trying to do nothing real quick. That ship has sailed. So, but what I can do is try to be a father figure to somebody. Because there's plenty of people you can spend your money on. Like I said, I got 7 godchildren. I don't want no more. Oh, gee whiz. He said, remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Then you will keep and obey these laws. You know, and I'm going to move on. Good gracious, the time is going fast. Okay. Let's go to Acts chapter 2. Oh. Now remember, he told them, don't bum rush me. He told them, everybody, keep your hands to yourself the night before because I want you thinking about me, not the blessing that I gave you. And in one set of writings, it said that when he started talking, because, you know, the people saw smoke and heard the thunder, and you know, some of them took off running. And some of the writings said the angels had to go get some of them, the ones that didn't oversleep. This in Acts The festival of Shavuot arrived, and the believers all gathered together in one place. Suddenly there came a sound from the sky, like the roar of a violent wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then they saw what looked like tongues of fire, which separated and came to rest on each of them. They were all filled with the Ruach HaKodesh and began to talk in different languages as the Spirit enabled them to speak. And of course, you know the rest of the story. Some people on the outside, because they were Hebrews and Jews from all over everywhere. And it was like, wait a minute, hold it. I thought all these were homeboys. They talking like we talk in our city. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And so, once again, we're back to like what Pastor Hodge was saying. We're back at the wedding. And here's something key. You do remember that the Israelites agreed before they heard what the laws were, what the teachings and instructions were going to be. Because they realized, hey, he got the bag. Isn't that the new statement now? Everybody wants to secure the bag. I never knew what that really meant. But that's, he got all the goodies. And he wants to join up with us. Who wouldn't say, yeah, I'll partner up with you? I got nothing, you got it all, and you want to share with me? Yes, sir. Where do I sign up? I'll sign up for that. Go to Jeremiah. I got about 13 minutes left. Jeremiah 31, 30 through 34. Now remember, in Deuteronomy, it talked about, and you to do this, every year, and he laid out a whole lot of stuff. Watch this in Jeremiah. Watch what he says in Jeremiah. Starting at chapter 31, starting at, and I wish I had a room full of preachers, because I would say, why you never share this part with me? Listen to this. Here are the days coming, says Yah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day I took them by their hand and brought them out the land of Egypt. Listen further. Because they, for their part, violated my covenant. He's talking about us. They, for their part, violated my covenant, even though I, for my part, was a husband to them, says Yah. For this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yah. I will put my Torah within them and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will any of them teach his fellow community member or his brother. Know Yah, for all will know me, from the least of them to the greatest, because I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. That's why we ought to be rejoicing. That's why we ought to be happy. We got a reprieve. We get a do-over. If we were doing golf, he's giving us a mulligan. That's when you hit a bad shot and you don't have to count it. And I think do you get to do it over? Okay. I wasn't good at golf. My dad wanted me to play, but I never did. Okay. And so when I read that, I was like, yes, I would get excited about a wedding. But when I read that in Jeremiah, I was like, wait a minute. He was like, look here. I not only dated you, I married you, I hooked you up, and you didn't do me right. But that's all right. We're going to do this again. But this time, I'm going to write it on your heart. I mean, how many of us, and I'm not even going to talk about a marriage. Let's just talk about a real good, solid friendship. A real good, solid friendship that's been through some ups and downs. And two people know that they can trust one another. I'm talking about friendship now, because we always want to talk about marriage like that's the only kind of relationship you can have. It's not. And again, I'm not anti. I'm not. If he's for it, I'm for it. But something happens. And maybe something in life happens in one of the friends' life that temporarily jades his or her view of everything in life. And so maybe they come out of their mouth with something and it's really, really offensive, or it's really, really hurtful because you're so close, they know exactly where to zing you. And you know some areas that would get their dander up. But say they go there. Are they still a friend? I'm not, this is not a test. Just think about it. Would you still consider them a friend? That's a personal question to each one of you. Now I've laid it out. I'm saying this ain't no plastic relationship. This is a real friendship. A real friendship, not one of them computer friending. Because y'all know that ain't that. Has anybody ever gotten any money from one of them kind of friends? Any one of those kind of friends ever came 3 o'clock in the morning to come pick you up? You ever needed to get to a hospital real quick? You ever, all them friends you got, did you send out a mass text? How many have responded? I'm not talking about that kind of friend. I'm not even talking about a fair weather friend. And again, I said it's nothing wrong with a fair weather friend. Because if you work at the same place, as long as y'all work there, you're trying to make their days pleasant and they're trying to make your day pleasant. But when one of you retire, the relationship is not quite the same. And when you try to revive it, because you say, hey, we going to lunch, okay. And then you realize that the person that retired is really not that interested in what's going on at the office anymore. Why? They're retired. And you got to still work, so yeah, it was nice to hear about the trip that they took. But you still, in fact, I enjoyed hearing that. I got to get back to work. And so both of you leave and saying, well, I mean, that was nice, but I don't know if we're going to do that again anytime soon. Getting back to what I was saying, I think, yes, for myself, they're still a friend, and I would still do what I could for them. But now I've got some doubt has seeped in. I'm just talking about me. I'm not talking about any of you. I'm not mature enough that I can totally wipe that out. I'm not. But if there was a need and I could fulfill it, I would still do it. And I'm not saying this to promote myself, because I understand when the scriptures say if it's within your power to do a good thing, then do it. It didn't say if you like the person. It didn't say if everything was copacetic between you all. It just said, hey, if you're one of my kids and you can write a situation, then do it. If you can. But that thing troubled me a lot, because I was like, well, man, you know, then if we say, well, hey, you know, that was then, that was said, this was said, you know, yeah, you, because I do have some friends where I can say, you know, you really made me mad. I wanted to hit you. But, you know, a lot of times you might be 1,500 miles apart. You know. But so that got me to thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, he's not like that. The Most High is not like that. He's not like, Donnie, I forgive you, but son, I got something for you later. See, he's not like that. We're like that. We're like that. But he's not, because he said here in Jeremiah, what did he say? How did he end that thing up? Know Yah, for all will know me, from the least of them to the greatest, because I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. So he will willfully not remember the injustice that we did to him. Man, that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. You know, because I'm you know, again, being honest, this thing about forgiveness. Yeah, well, that's where I am. That's where I am. I mean, I'm being honest. And, you know, I'm tired of this plastic stuff. You know. And that's a serious thing. You know, I have 1 minute. He says, I will forgive their wickednesses. And notice he didn't say wickedness. He said, he made it plural. That means a whole lot of us did a whole lot of stuff. Not just, well, I just had one thing. No, homie. Now you got two because you lying. You know. No, that's three because you forgot I know all things. Well, Lord, if I did anything, oh, please. Because we say that to each other. If I offended you. Man, you missing 3 teeth. I think you already know you offended me. Now I need you to forgive me. Is the forgiveness coming? Let us take to heart that yes, it was a joining of heaven and earth. But because we failed, he had to do it again. And he was willing to do it again. He said, you know, Barry, man, I hooked you up, and you done had a pretty good life so far. But I tell you, son, all along the way, well, you done some stuff. But, you know, you still my boy. I'm glad. I'm glad. And he said the same thing for each one of you. And again, he's not like us because, see, some of us, we will forgive. But every now and then, we want to remind you. That's like, you know, you're playing sports and, you know, maybe you lost to them, you know, playing one-on-one basketball. And some guys ain't never going to let you forget that. You both 90 plus, barely can walk. Yeah, but remember, I beat you. Yeah, well, man, come on. Human beings, we're funny. See, some stuff we willfully want to hold on to. Even hurts. Sometimes we got to let it go. Barry. We got to let it go. Because in spite of all of what we did back then, or our ancestors did back then, he said, man, I choose you. I'm choosing you all again. And that ought to satisfy all our hearts. God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. Thank you, Reg.